While campaigning in Uttar Pradesh, the Prime Minister only last week made a jibe at Harvard University, saying that hard work is more powerful than Harvard. It was an apparent reference to those like Amartya Sen who've been attacking him for the note ban. He was quoting, that is, the Prime Minister was quoting the latest GDP data to show that he didn't think demonetisation had affected the growth rate. Well, a student at Harvard has now written an open letter to Mr. Modi saying that his dig at the university was unfair. Prateek Kanwal is his name. He's a master in public policy with the Harvard University, with the John F. Kennedy School of Government, and joins us via Skype from there. Prateek, thanks a lot for joining us. We were looking at your letter to the Prime Minister, this open letter that's created quite a buzz here in India. So if you could explain to our viewers why you felt so strongly about this comment that the PM made.
I think, Nidhi, it was very unbecoming of the PM to mention something like this in an election rally. I mean, I do understand the need to actually, campaign in poetry, but I think this become a little too far. I think people are supposed to criticize if they feel that the policy is not supposed to be meeting its end. But I think for a PM to, remark against a Nobel laureate who's specifically at a university like Harvard, I think it's very unbecoming of him. It doesn't do, justice to his stature as a PM of the country.
You said in your letter, and I found this very interesting because you're talking about your own experience. You said to him that I'm from a middle class family. My father is a public servant just like you. And before this, you were trying to reform education in India, working as a teacher in a municipal school. And therefore, I hope this proves my credentials as a hard-working nationalist. You were trying to make that point that, by going to Harvard, it doesn't diminish your nationalist credentials, basically.
Yes, Nidhi. I mean, I have given my career to this, education reform in this country. I could have taken lucrative offers after my finance degree from Narsimhaji College in Bombay, but I chose to actually teach students in a municipal school because I feel education was something which my parents gave it to me. My dad could not earn that much money to put me in a great school, but he made sure that whatever little he could do, and my education was his foremost criteria. And that's what I feel, that in India, if you have to reform the country, education is the biggest thing. And I feel that, at every point, if I have to prove my nationalistic credentials, despite doing so well and working for the country, that I think it pinches me a little.
You've also said in your letter about what Harvard is teaching you. And among the things you've pointed out is evidence-based learning, a bipartisan approach to build character. Again, expand on that. What was the point that you were trying to make here?
See, I mean, if you look at the demonetization policy, we were taught two things here. Value of a statistical life, which actually roughly estimates to amount 1 million per person in India. If you look at 200 people which have died in India, there is 200 million lost to the exchequer because of people dying. That's simply called the value of statistical life. And if you also look at the labor hours which have gone out for people standing in the queue, we've lost on productive labor for all these while when people were standing in the queue. So I feel if you look at the policy from the lens of, say, evidence-based learning, this policy has been found wanting on multiple accounts. So I think both the conceiving of the policy as well as its implementation was not by the textbook, right? And hence we saw so many people getting killed and so many people having to stand in queues for hours foregoing their labor.
You said a true statesman, again I quote from your letter, knows how to respectfully disagree and engage with an opposing ideology. And our professors tell us that, as you said, you can campaign in poetry, but it's prudent to govern in prose. Do you believe, as you said in the letter, that the political discourse in India has just become so bitter that, that bipartisanship that you're hoping for is lost on policy?
Yes, Nidhi, look what is happening in our parliament and in our universities. People are not willing to engage with the opposing ideology. It's just that my word versus yours, right? Nobody wants to see what are the things which we need to work on in the country. There is lack of infrastructure, there's lack of health, there's lack of education, but we are still trying to outdo each other to get political gains from the country. And that's something which I think is very unbecoming, again, of political parties and in specifically our Prime Minister. Because I think his job is to govern, and he should be unfazed by comments of what people think about him or his policies. If he thinks he's doing the right job, he should stick by that narrative and let people decide during the elections of whether they support him or not. I think just these jibes are very unbecoming of a Prime Minister and a statesman.
And as you said, to develop a country as diverse in India, you'll need the help of people who bring a different perspective to the table. People like me hope to return to India after graduation, hoping to join you in your quest to develop the country, but such remarks will only push us away. But I hope they don't. I hope you don't get disillusioned by one remark at an election rally and you do come back and do something for the country.
Yes, Nidhi, I mean, it's a dream for a public policy student to come back and work in public policy in India, right? And as I mentioned about so many problems which our country is being plagued with. So I really want to come back and work with the country, but the government should be supportive of people, and we should be preventing us from staying back in US. Now the US doesn't want us anymore. They are sending us back. And if our Prime Minister also, starts commenting on elite students who graduate from universities and don't expect them to come back, I think that will only push us to stay back in the country or go back somewhere else, which I don't want to.
Do you want to come back and teach again? Do you want to do something in education?
Yes. I really look forward to working in the education sector once I come back and fulfill the dream of one day all children will receive an excellent education in the country. I do hope education is the only way we can solve the problems of this country.
Well, I think that's a very, very noble goal to have. And as you said in your letter, and it is quite an interesting letter, you said to the Prime Minister while you were making these remarks in UP, Minister of State for Petroleum and Natural Gas, Dharmendra Pradhan, was addressing us at Harvard and asked us at the university to collaborate with your government. MOS Jain Sinha is a graduate from the Harvard Business School, and I'm sure your comments would come as a surprise to all these hardworking people as well. Well, certainly, Prateek, you've spoken your mind and ended your letter with a Jai Hind to the Prime Minister. So wish you all the very best and a great letter that you've written. You've been outspoken, and as you said, you want to come back, you want to do something for your country and particularly for the education of children. Thank you very much for joining us today, Prateek, and good luck.
Thank you, Nidhi, for having me.